Football is For is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. A lot of great stuff this week in Football at 4. Andrew Dicecco, his first reaction on Football at 4 to what the Eagles did in the draft. There's one player I know he really liked, and we'll get his thoughts on that coming up right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN as Andrew Dicecco joins me right now for Football at 4 on this Thursday. Andrew, welcome back, man. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm always good, man. Good to always catch up with you. I actually got a chance Saturday. I was driving around in the Philly area, so I heard a lot of your takes on some of the stuff here. But I know one guy in particular that you're pretty fond of because you said it here on Football at 4. But I want to get your thoughts on first the decision to trade up one spot, Jahad Campbell, and how you kind of envision his fit and what he will do for this defense here, because obviously they lost a lot on defense. Is this a guy that you think will make an impact right away?
Well, I love the pick first and foremost for the Philadelphia Eagles, Mike. He was the 10th rated player on my Dicecco big board, and it turns out Howie Roseman had a top 10 grade on him as well. When you talk about a player who is really the modern-day NFL defender, and he can rush the passer at 6'3", 235. He can move sideline to sideline as an off-ball linebacker. He has a coverage acumen to him. So I kind of like him a little bit to, I guess, Micah Parsons. But I think Campbell is even more of an off-ball linebacker. I think he can do that a little bit more effectively. And so trading up a spot ensures that the Eagles got their guy and eliminated the possibility of maybe another team leaping in front of them to take the guy that they wanted. And I think that was great value at 31, and he's going to be an early impact player for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2025.
We were just talking about, there was a report that the Eagles maybe were talking with the Chargers to get up to number 22, I guess, the Chargers. I can't even imagine. Would they have traded up to 22, do you think, to take this player?
I think so. If we're to take what Howie Roseman said at face value, if he really was a top 10 player and everything checked out medically, which obviously it did, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't. If they liked him at 31, they likely liked him at 22 as well. And it was crazy for me to see him still available. I almost forgot that he hadn't been picked yet until I'm going through my big board. I'm looking at the players that I crossed off. I'm like, wow, Campbell hasn't gone yet. This has to be for Campbell, and certainly it was.
Andrew Dicecco, there's round one. I know in round two, there goes Philadelphia. They're picking last in the round. They have the opportunity to make a couple of picks. Drew Makuba is the pick. You brought his name up a lot during our pre-draft stuff here on Football at 4. That's the selection. What did you think of that selection and the fit and where they might use him? Because he did play, some corner and safety at Texas.
Yeah, I think I'm higher on him maybe than the consensus. I've watched a lot of Drew Makuba tape, and I really like the way that his skill set translates into a Vic Fangio defense. He's versatile. He's highly intelligent, which is a critical aspect of playing that position at a high level in that defense, because it is a little bit complicated for safeties and linebackers. A lot is asked of them. And his body type, I know that there's a lot of folks that are having trouble getting over him being 5'11", 186. It's important to remember that he weighed in at 194 at the NFL Combine, and his body type is kind of similar to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Of course, he also has the ability to take the football away. In college, 5 interceptions last year, but I just like his ability to be versatile, so Vic Fangio can move him around. And when you really look at the safeties that Vic has had in his systems that have really thrived, it's been players of that mold, and I had him kind of around 65 to 70 on my big board. So I don't think that was a reach, and he has the qualities of that player, which is why I brought him up so frequently during our conversations.
Yeah, Makuba, obviously. Do you look at him as the guy that wins that job off the bat? Him, Sidney Brown, Lewis Scenes in that room, and Tristan McCollum. Do you think Makuba will ultimately come out of training camp as the day one starter?
Yeah, in my opinion, yes, because he has more of a well-rounded skill set maybe than someone like a Sidney Brown, who, while we haven't seen what he's able to do in its entirety in a Vic Fangio defense, his skill set is a little bit more limited. He doesn't have quite the range. And beyond that, it's what's between the ears, right? And I think that his ability to be that heat-seeking missile, it might play well in other defenses, but for Vic's defense, where you have to be assignment sound and you can't afford to take poor angles and give up a big play. He's going to make a big play, but he's also probably going to give up a big play as well. I just think that based on his skill set in this particular defense, Makuba is the vastly superior player.
All right, it'll be interesting. That's going to be, last year I think it was when we got to training camp, everybody was like, all right, maybe it was last year when everybody was wondering who was going to be the corners. All those young corners, Ricks and Ringo, they were all going to be battling for that spot. This year, it's probably going to be that safety room. All these young guys. Do you think they'll bring in a veteran safety?
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me because they were light at that position last year. A lot of youth. You talked about Lewis Seen. He hasn't played a lot of football. He was a first-round pick. He has the name, but I believe he's only played in 10 NFL games. Tristan McComb is probably a third or a fourth safety, probably a fourth safety. Andre Sam's a player who is entering his second season. The Eagles are happy with his progress, but again, he's going to have to fight to make the roster. So you see the trend here. There's a lot of inexperience and unknown variables. So I think that it would serve the Eagles well to go out there and add someone like a Justin Simmons. But even still, I like Makuba as an early impact player. And him and Campbell, I think, are going to make their presence felt fairly early in their Eagles' careers.
All right, Andrew, as you guys were going through this on the air, I'm assuming it's very difficult to kind of look at here in the third round. They did nothing. So you're waiting, and they're moving, and the next thing you know, they don't make a pick in the third round. But on Saturday, they get the opportunity to draft somebody, and they take Ty Robinson. So did you have a guy in the third round that you were like, I probably would have stayed there and taken someone, or did you like what they ended up with after all the moves?
Yeah, I can't fault the Eagles for trading back, and if I'm trying to think through the lens of how they were probably going through it, it's that they didn't view it as a big discrepancy in talent from the late 3 to early 4 where they would then be picking, and they still got a defensive tackle that they could have gotten Ty Robinson at 94. They could have gotten him at 101 in all likelihood, and they got a player who I believe can fit in and help in a rotation. Now, is he going to suddenly step in and take on the snaps that were previously undertaken by Milton Williams? I don't think so, but I think that he can give you the 37, 38, 40% snap share that Moro Ojomo gave them last year, while Ojomo had season uptick in snaps. But I see him as a rotational piece that plays with power and violence, can help against the run, is a pocket pusher, and I really do think that you're going to see his energy and impact felt pretty early, because he does have a very refined skill set.
Yeah, he'll be an interesting guy to keep an eye on there. An older guy who's been around, played, 5 years at Nebraska because of the COVID year. So Ty Robinson's one that a lot of people seem to like. Then you get into this little run here in the fifth round. Smile Mondin, Mac McWilliams, Drew Kendall. You got, before we get to Kendall, because there's a run of 4 straight offensive players. Mac McWilliams, underrated player. Smile's another guy who I think very, very talented, productive college player. Either one of those guys stand out to you as a guy that can contribute?
Well, Mac McWilliams, as a side note, might end up being my rookie diary subject for the 2025 season. But I like his ability to have inside-outside versatility. He does have shorter arms. I think they're around the 29-inch, which is a 29-inch mark, which is a little bit tough to play outside corner at a high level or in a extended capacity at the pro level. So I think his role will probably be on special teams and also as a backup nickel. Let's not forget the Eagles lost Devontae Maddox and don't really have an obvious choice as a backup nickel on the roster behind Cooper DeJean. I think he's going to have a role, be a critical piece on special teams, then also fill in a depth role in the backfield.
All right, Andrew Dicecco.
And then Mondin, that's right. You asked me about Mondin. He's a player that I like at 6'2", 224 pounds, 3-year starter. You love that. Smart and tough, and he does have some leadership qualities that kind of remind me of Nakobe Dean. I think he might be able to help you situationally next year because of how much football he's played at a high level in college, and then also on special teams as well, of course.
And you mentioned Dean. I mean, there's no guarantee that he's back ready to go. So, I mean, this could be a guy who maybe his name is more prevalent come training camp than we think when we heard it on Saturday afternoon when they call it. Let's look at that run of 4 straight offensive players: Kendall, McCord, Hinton, and Williams. Kendall and Hinton, fathers, both played in the NFL. Those guys had some valuable depth there. A lot of people like Cameron Williams. And then obviously you had a quarterback, which this team just likes to kind of do here. But they were the 4 offensive players there. What stands out about that group?
Well, I like what Howie Roseman did. His approach on day 3 is what I believe every general manager, if you're in that position, should strive for, and that is to swing for those high upside players and take those late round flyers that have some intriguing qualities and maybe not go for the safe choice. But for the Eagles, and they have a very rich crop of assistant coaches that are keen on development. So I like a lot of those guys for how they fit. But Drew Kendall, to me, Mike, is a pick that I really liked on day 3. He's the center guard, but he's primarily a center, which the Eagles did not have a pure backup center behind Cam Jurgens, and they had to move over Landon Dickerson from left guard to center in the middle of the game. And now you weaken 2 spots. I think that if Kendall's able to stick, and they tried this last year with Dylan McMahon, it didn't quite work out. I think that that's going to be a really sound selection. And I've gotten some folks that ask me if he translates as a guard, and would he be a viable contender to really challenge Tyler Steen or Kenyon Green. I'm not there yet. We haven't seen him take a snap at the pro level, so I don't know how I could jump to that conclusion. I don't like to kind of speculate like that. We'll have to wait and see how it goes, but that's a really good selection there in the 5th round.
Yeah, I did see some of that as well, wondering if he or one of the other two could kind of shift over and play guard and be a part of that guard, competition, if you will, in training camp there. Both those guys are listed as tackles, Hinton and Williams, and Kendall as more of a center, but could they all be in the mix at right guard come training camp? That will be a story to watch as well. And then, of course, in the final round there, you get a highly productive player in Powell Ryland. I mean, you get a guy with 25 and a half sacks. We were talking about this earlier in the week, Andrew. They've drafted like Teron Jackson and Patrick Johnson. Like, those guys are athletic players, but not nearly as productive as Powell Ryland, who played at, in the ACC, a little bit bigger competition than some of those guys. Is he a guy that could surprise, or, hey, you'd be surprised if he makes an impact?
That was another player that I really, really like that selection. And you know how every draft cycle I tend to put out, quote unquote, my guys. The Eagles drafted 2 of them in Drew Makuba and Antoine Powell Ryland. And I like that he has some twitchiness to him. He's a pure pass rusher. He does give up a little bit against the run, but you have to wonder why a player that productive, 25 and a half sacks combined for the past 2 seasons. He's a finisher, 6 forced fumbles over that same span. So when he gets after the quarterback, he looks to seal the deal and finish it and force a turnover. But he does have, I guess, shorter arms and more of a compact build. And I think he's a little bit older. He might be 23 and some change. So that may be a deterrent for some teams when you're assessing the long-term future of those prospects. But as a pure pass rusher, if he's able to show anything in training camp that he has developmental traits or can even help you on special teams, I have to think that he has a good chance of making the 53, certainly the practice squad. But this is a little bit more stiffer competition than he's used to. He's going to have to edge out maybe a Josh Uche or a Bryce Huff for a spot on the 53.
All right, there's Andrew's breakdown of what the Eagles did on draft night. Anything at the end of the draft that you were surprised they didn't address?
Tight end would be a big one for me. I know that Mason Taylor went early on day 2, so realistically the Eagles would have had to have given up a lot to get him. But my understanding was that they did like the player. There was a big drop-off beyond Mason Taylor, and I think that whether or not Dallas Goedert's on the roster this year or not, they still need to add to that tight end position and get a player in that they can develop for the future. And I thought that knowing that they had so much ammunition this year and next year, it would have made sense to be aggressive and go up and get that tight end. They did not, and that's the way that it went. And I was also curious to see that they went the Makuba route over maybe a Xavier Watts at safety, the safety from Notre Dame who went later. But really, Xavier Watts was widely viewed as probably the 3rd best safety in this class, depending on who you ask. Makuba was my 4th rated safety, but based on fit, I guess it really shouldn't be that surprising that they went Makuba and instead of the more decorated player in Watts.
Well, there's a lot of stuff here. Now, that tight end spot is obviously something we're going to be keeping an eye on, but after this draft is over now, which position are you most intrigued by when you get to training camp?
Cornerback. And that's a position that I was a little bit shocked that they didn't address it on day 2. I guess when you look at what moving out of the third round, was there something I was surprised at? Yeah, I guess that you didn't go corner in the second or third round. But I'm curious because Keely Ringo now is entering his third season. He's a young player. The Eagles seem to like him a little bit, and I want to see with that year of working in fixed defense with Christian Parker, the defensive backs coach, with Roy Anderson, the cornerbacks coach, if he has some more refinement to his game, if he's a little bit more technically sound, because last summer he got a little grabby. He seemed to bail on his technique, but you can't dispute the athleticism that he has and the length that he has, and he's going against a veteran in Dory Jackson. They didn't address that position as of now, except for Mac McWilliams. So for now, it's going to be those two guys going head-to-head, and I'm curious to see how that pans out.
Right, so you like that corner battle there. What about the edge rusher there? Do they have enough with what they have here? You got Hunt, you got Huff, you got Ojulari, you got Uche. Is that enough for your liking at that spot?
Well, as I always say, depth is not about the amount of players at one position. It's about the quality. We'll have to find out if they have the quality there. But right now, I think that it's going to be an interesting battle to see who's able to kind of elbow one another out for that fourth or fifth spot. I think they have done enough there. I'm a big Jalen Hunt guy. I know that I heard you and Jeff talking yesterday, and you're a little bit on the fence about Jalen Hunt, his ability to make that leap forward, which I can understand. But when I look at where he was from last summer to the middle of the season to the Super Bowl, playing meaningful snaps, I think that his progression in just that amount of time suggests that the arrow is trending up for him, and the best is certainly yet to come. So I like him. I like Nolan Smith this year. And Azeez Ojulari was the best, and in my opinion at least, of the one-year prove-it-deal signings. So I like him maybe as that third edge rusher. And then we'll have to wait and see. Uche or Josh or Bryce Huff, we'll have to see which one of those guys pans out. I'm not ready to close the book on Bryce Huff just yet. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for the light to come on for some of those guys.
Yeah, that one will be interesting. I agree. No, Hunt, to me, I just think it's such a wild card. I mean, I don't know what to expect from him. Highly impressed. I thought he was way bigger of an impact than anybody anticipated he would be as a rookie last year. So I'm really intrigued by what he brings in year 2. I'm also intrigued, Andrew, of what Nolan Smith brings in year 3. He was a nothing burger as a rookie. Last year, he was quiet for half the year, and then he really came on. So what is he in your mind in year 3?
I think he's a double-digit sack guy. Okay. I really do. I think sometimes when you have to get your feet wet. You have to get snaps under your belt, and then you start to build that confidence. He started to have a much more varied pass rush attack, and he's playing more physically against the run. He's just playing like a more confident player, and when you have the season that you have and you close it out the way that he did, being a complete menace in the postseason, I think that's going to carry over, and now he's going to slowly become the player who the Eagles envisioned when he somehow slipped to the back end of the first round a couple years ago. So, yeah, I have high hopes for him. I think he's going to be a double-digit sack guy.
All right, Andrew, we'll get you out on this over at InsideTheBirds.com. The Eagles picked up the fifth-round option on Jordan Davis. He's such an interesting guy. I mean, they traded up together. He was a first-round pick. How he fits into this defense and, what his kind of, impact is for – he doesn't fill up the stat sheet, but how important is he to this defense?
Yeah, stats can sometimes be deceiving because he does play a key role in occupying blockers. He's a space eater, and he frees up defensive linemen like Jalen Carter or like Milton Williams or whomever in the past to get after the quarterback. But he also keeps those linebackers in that second level clean and free to roam and make plays against ball carriers or in coverage. So he does serve a vital role. Now, 37% of the snaps he played last year, he's never played more than 45%. The Eagles it's sort of a projection here that he is trending upwards, and he did have a sack in the NFC title game and the Super Bowl. So while he's never going to be a 5-sack-a-season guy, probably, he does have some qualities that I think the Eagles are intrigued with, and been a little bit of a slow burn, but I think that they're banking on him starting to hit his stride here. But so he does a lot for that defense, and it wasn't really surprising to see that them exercise his option.
Well, the draft came and went. Andrew Dicecco was all over it, and there's your breakdown here on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash. You can catch more of his coverage of the NFL draft, thoughts, and the Eagles offseason moving forward. They'll have rookie mini camps talking to, I think the rookies are talking tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
Yep, and Andrew will be all over that, I'm sure, over at InsideTheBirds.com. All right, man, I'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.